Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark. This is Kirk Henderson. I'm joined, as always, by fellow editor at Mavs Moneyball, Josh Bowe. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing okay. How are you doing tonight?
Okay. We recorded a preview of this series last night, which I then forgot to publish until like 9 o'clock this morning, like an idiot. And watching tonight's 117-95 Dallas Mavericks loss was a confirmation that in terms of when it comes to previewing how dangerous the Thunder are, we know what we're talking about. And that was it's a tough game. I'm sort of struggling to figure out how to talk about it because the Mavericks ended up losing by 22. The game was close. At one point the Mavericks were down by one, or did they hold the 66-65 lead?
No, they were down by one.
They're down by one in the third quarter. Mark Daigneault called a timeout. Thunder came out and hit, I think, 3 consecutive threes, and were off to a boat race. And the Mavericks never really got back in it. And when I say I struggled to know where to talk about, I struggle to know where to begin, because when you lose a game like this where you're right there with it, the loss ends up being about a lot of things, not one or two things. And I'm sort of curious as to what you think the main culprit for sort of how the game got out of control, like what that was. And then I think we should sort of walk through, sort of quite literally recap elements of this game and then circle back to managing elements for the Mavericks in this game.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of funny. I feel like everything we talked about in terms of what the Mavericks need to do to beat the Thunder, they didn't do. The main culprit's probably their half-court offense stunk, and it stunk all playoffs. We talked about that in the preview.
It really has.
Yeah, we talked about that in our preview podcast that we recorded last night. We said, hey, their best moments against the Clippers offensively was because they're generating all these steals and blocks and turnovers, and they're getting off into transition, and they're scoring incredibly well in transition. And quietly, their half-court offense kind of stunk for most of the Clippers series. It stunk again tonight, and we talked about how, hey, they don't have the athletic advantage that they had in the Clippers series. Are they going to be able to generate offense without having a huge steals block advantage? Lo and behold, the Mavericks had 13 combined steals and blocks, which is still pretty good.
Yeah.
But the Thunder had 16. So they didn't have that huge advantage. And the Mavericks had 15 turnovers and the Thunder had 9. So the half-court the half-court offense was bad. They had limited opportunities to get into transition because they just didn't turn the Thunder over like they did to the Clippers. And then, the Thunder had 28 free throw attempts, and they had, obviously they had a majority of those in the first half, which I'm sure we'll get to eventually. But when you're taking, when you're sending a team to the free throw lines that often, you're going to have to walk the ball up and play transition offense, or not.
Sure.
You have to play half-court offense. And their half-court offense repeatedly failed them throughout the night. I actually think their defense was okay. Like, I don't really have much qualms with their defensive strategy or even the defensive execution. They kind of play defense like they've been playing since March 1st.
I agree.
And the Thunder just made threes, which is what we said. They're going to give up threes. And the Thunder are a good three-point shooting team. They're a better three-point shooting team than the Clippers. But you can't. They hung their defense out to dry. Like, it was a dam waiting to break because their offense continually came up dry, almost possession after possession after possession. And you can't expect your defense, as good as it's been since the trade deadline, to keep up with a team on the road, a team playing at home like the Thunder that's as good as the Thunder. You can't keep giving them that many chances to push. And even if they're not pushing, like, it's just so much easier for an offense to score off a missed shot when they're not taking the ball out of the basket or from a free throw or a made shot. Like,
well, and
What do you expect? The defense just can't hold up if you're continuously bricking shots in your half court offense.
So longtime listener Bobby Chapman in the comments with the hilarious still no mention of the refs. What is this podcast? And the main reason I don't really want to talk about the refs is because when the Mavericks went on their third quarter run to make it interesting, the defense was connected and the Mavericks were pushing. And I think that connectivity on the Dallas defense is going to be there. Look, if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is gonna chase the Dwayne Wade free throw award of getting 65,000 free throws off of bullshit, then we just have to live with it. There's no other way around it, and I'm not particularly interested in talking about it. Frankly, the way the refs called the game in the third quarter was completely different than they called it in the first half.
It was very funny. I think SGA only had 2 free throw attempts in the second.
Right. So it's like the Mavericks have to believe in their defensive game plan and go from there. Okay, so first quarter of this game was really horrendously hilarious, where Kyrie Irving, of all people, had nerves and had 4 absolutely "are you okay" turnovers that were almost like laugh out loud worthy. And Jason Kidd said in between quarters, Kai took full. I just called him Kai. I promised myself I would never call him Kai. His name is Kyrie Irving. I'm a 40-year-old man. I cannot do that. Kyrie Irving took responsibility and basically handled the ball well the rest of the game. But the Mavericks as a whole, I think they had 6 turnovers in the first quarter, really sloppy-ish basketball. And the Mavericks sort of just hung around. They would answer different Oklahoma City runs with runs of their own. And after one period of play, it was tied. It was either tied or it was tied 23-all, I think. Yeah. And the Mavericks came out in the second quarter, took a quick lead because of PJ Washington fouls. We had early Tim Hardaway Jr. minutes, which I cannot wait to circle back on later on in this game. Shame on you, Jason Kidd. What in the fuck are we doing? Tim Hardaway minutes in 2024. My God. The game started to get away from Dallas in the second quarter. The fouls were clearly frustrating everyone. And the Thunder took a double-digit lead, but then walked into halftime with trailing 60-51. In the third quarter, the Mavericks made a rally, got within a single point, and then Oklahoma City hit the press the we're going to hit all our threes button. And
yep.
And I'm seeing some like weird comments in our chat right now. It's like, oh, it's lucky threes. It's lucky three. No, the Mavericks defense is quite literally designed to wall off the paint, and you're going to have to give up shots. You cannot be everywhere all at once. And the Thunder have good shooters. They play a 5-out offense a lot of the time. Chet Holmgren, Matthew Phillips of MavsMoneyball.com said before the game that Chet is a fake good shooter. And when nobody's near you, you can hit shots. This is why I want Derek Lively to be able to take an occasional 3 in a game, just because I've heard he can shoot. I'd love to see it. And so at that point, it was a boat race. The Mavericks didn't really have much of a chance to get back into it. Their offense was putrid, which was largely why they didn't have much of a chance to get back into it. And I think if we acknowledge early on that the offensive grossness is a big part of the Dallas challenge with what they need to do, to me, that's like and where does the offense start with? I'm not laying it entirely at his feet, but the offensive ineptitude was driven primarily by the umpteenth straight horrendous shooting game from Luka Doncic. And yeah. I hate to, I'm not laying it at his feet, but if he's the engine and the engine is busted, I don't know what you do.
Yeah. When you're trying to talk adjustments, that's the hard part, because if Luka's not Luka, then we can talk all we want about, hey, they need to do some stuff differently in the half court. But if he can't execute that because for a variety of reasons, his knee hurts, whatever, that's the series. Like, he has to look like himself at some point. Can the Mavericks help him along a little bit more? Yeah, I think so. But if he's this hampered physically, like we said in the preview podcast, that's taking away a lot of things that they might want to counter with, because if Luka's knee hurts to the point that you don't want him setting screens, then, I'm struggling to think of ways that you can get creative here if you're petrified of him taking more contact, because the answer is he needs to be in the paint more. But if his knee hurts and it's harder for him to get in the paint, and if you don't want him setting screens because you don't want to invite unnecessary contact, I'm struggling to think of a way for him to get to the rim reliably without further injuring his knee or further getting beat up physically. That's the challenge.
Sure.
And that's why he needs to hit threes, and he's not hitting threes. And maybe he's not hitting threes because his knee hurts. And it's like, it just makes it hard to talk about because it's clear he's not healthy. And I don't want to make excuses for him necessarily because he's playing. He's played 41 minutes. He averaged 42 and a half minutes in the Clippers series. But at the other end of the spectrum, like, we watched him this season. This is not the Luka we saw in the regular season. It's just not, just the way he's moving around. It's not the same.
So he's 1 of 8 on threes tonight. So he's 17 of 75 from 3. So let me do some math there. I'm not very good at math. Sorry, guys. He is 15% worse from 3 so far in the playoffs than he was in the regular season. And I saw one comment in there, "Oh, you're just making excuses." It wasn't a problem in the Clippers series. Yes, it fucking was. The reason the Mavericks didn't sweep the terrible Clippers is because the Mavericks couldn't shoot. I like, that's just a weird comment to make. I don't understand this. And while we're here, just so we can kind of clear this up, I don't disagree with anyone who says let's have more Kyrie Irving initiated offense. I don't disagree.
Problem was he had 4 when he has 4 first quarter turnovers. It's like, uh-oh.
Well, but not only that, no, that part honestly doesn't bother me. Okay. At what point do we have to acknowledge the fact that Kyrie doesn't want that? I'm sorry, like, he doesn't do it. We've had 50 plus games of him kind of meandering around the court in the first quarter. That is what he does. I'm not mad at him for it. I've accepted it because he plays great the other 3 quarters.
And he's also a good off-ball player. Like,
absolutely.
And he's a good shooter.
Absolutely a great off-ball player. So it's one of these things where it's like Luka needs to let Kyrie do this. No, guys, the Mavericks need to make that decision together, and the Mavericks actually need to implement it. That includes Kyrie coming out and doing it. Really, it really does. And that's not a criticism. That's just something that as a team, they have to want to do. And so while we're talking Kyrie and Luka, this is the part that you've talked about for 6 games now, that going back to last game, so 7 games, that I would like you to sort of expound upon further. And I'm going to attempt to bully you into talking about it and writing about it for MavsMoneyball.com, because then maybe Jason Kidd might implement it. Why aren't Luka and Kyrie in any sets together? It is driving me crazy.
Only thing I could think of is that with his knee, they just don't want him setting screens. But then again, I don't know why Kyrie's not setting more screens for Luka.
Yes.
I think I saw it maybe once today, but like, with your half-court offense struggling, they should be spamming that like it's NBA 2K.
Right.
Like, there's no
I
time
don't
left.
care
You're
if
not
you bring
hiding
Lou Dort.
anything.
Like, the concern has to be you bring Lou Dort and Jalen Williams together. Oh, no.
Well, try it. And if they do that, then do
something else.
Trying it. Yeah. They need to do something like that. And if they're not going to do that, then they need to run Kyrie off more staggered screens off ball. They did that like once or twice.
I'm not getting it.
The half-court offense is it's with Luka and Kyrie. So this isn't like a Luka focused criticism.
Thing.
Yeah, it's either Luka, Kyrie, high screen and roll, and they go from there. And it's like no one else is really moving around. The Thunder are totally content with it. There were some possessions where they did the thing that we talked about, where they're staying home to shooters, they're staying home to the lob threat, and they're letting Kyrie, Luka work one-on-one because they just don't want the role players to beat them. Funny enough, I actually thought in that third quarter spurt that the Mavericks got it down to 1 point lead or 1 point deficit. They started sitting 2 at Luka. I mean, I'm not like a Thunder fan, but I'm just like watching the game. I'm like, what are the Thunder doing? Like, Luka was 5 of 15 from the floor at that point, and they're doubling Luka and letting him make these great passes. And then they cut the deficit to 1, and then they kind of cut that out, and they let Luka try to shoot a little bit more. And Luka finished 6 of 19, so he was only like one of 4 after that. So, they needed to do a little bit more. They did a little bit more in terms of like small pick and rolls, but funny enough, it wasn't with Kyrie. They let Josh Green set some screens for Luka. They let Tim Hardaway Jr. set some screens for Luka. Obviously, the Tim Hardaway Jr. part did not work. He was terrible. Josh Green, mixed results.
Mostly positive for what I expect from Josh Green. Mostly positive.
Yeah, I don't think you can expect too much more. Other than he makes more shots, but like I don't know how many more shots you can expect him to make. It was pretty indicative of the game. Luka had an all-time pass in this game. I don't know if you remember. I think it was in the third quarter where he was on the left side of the floor and getting doubled, kind of where the three-point line that bends from above the break to the corner, and he was doubled. And I felt like he teleported the ball from there to the weak side corner to Josh Green, who was wide open for a corner three, and he missed it. It was one of the best passes.
I mean, there was no one within 25 feet of Josh Green.
It was an incredible pass. I'm going to have to clip it for my post. Luka makes that pass in his sleep, but it still amazes me every time he does it. And Green missed it, and that's not a knock on Green. He missed it, whatever. And then the Thunder came back up the floor, and Isaiah Joe kind of hit like a contested 3-off-1 dribble pass. And that's kind of that kind of summed up the game.
Exactly.
Like the Thunder players hit their threes, the Mavericks did not. And that's going to happen. And like we said, the Mavericks defense is going to invite that a little bit. Here's where the threes might become a little bit of a problem. You say, okay, defensively, can they make some changes? The Thunder were 5 of 11 from corner three. So you don't want to give up corner threes. The Mavericks have been pretty good about giving up above the break threes who they want to shoot, but their Achilles heel, if you have to say the one bad thing that they've been doing since the trade deadline when their defense has been good is they give up threes, and they probably give up too many corner threes. Like they've still been doing that even when their defense is good. They just got some good shooting luck. And the Thunder made 5 of 11 from corner three. So that part stinks. But Kirk, Thunder were 15 of 28 in the restricted area, 53.5%.
That's amazing.
It's really good. They're 4
of 15. You can't ask for more.
4 of 15 in the paint outside the restricted area against the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander team. Did your job. They made threes. So, and again, those threes kind of snowballed on top of the bad offense. Like if you just make better offense and you force the Thunder to play more half-court ball, because I feel like I'll have to look back. How many of the Thunder threes kind of came off scrambled possessions that felt like they were bringing the ball in transition? Maybe not a transition score, but off of a transition opportunity that flowed into that like secondary break, having the Mavericks off balance. So if their half-court offense can be like, that's the key to this game, to the rest of the series for me. Can the Mavericks half-court offense be respectable enough that they can force the Thunder into more uncomfortable positions?
Do you understand how stupid it is that we're talking about this with 2 of the greatest offensive talents in the multiverse? What the fuck are we doing? I don't like the Thunder aren't that great. Like Thunder are long, the Thunder are talented, the Thunder are connected. So I don't want to insult them, but like good offense can beat good defense. We're not running good offense. This is killing me.
Yeah, absolutely. And what did we talk? Sorry, can I?
Please, no. I sound like a prepubescent boy right now. My voice is cracking.
Did you want to go to a break, or can I hit it on another point?
Hit on another point, then we'll go to break.
Remember, one of the things we talked about this series that's going to be trouble is the Clippers had a litany of non-threatening players on the offensive side of the ball that the Mavericks totally took advantage of, shading their defense, letting those guys catch the ball open. And then we talked about this record last night. Thunder don't have that many weak spots as the Clippers did. Like they're going to have their work cut out for them if they're going to want to shade and help. You can obviously help off Dort and Giddey, and the Mavericks did, and those 2 guys combined for 9 points. But Chet Holmgren can hit open shots. Jalen Williams can hit open shots, and they were actually kind of lucky he played so poorly in the first half, where this game could have been over early. Obviously, Shai is great, but like other Jalen Williams that comes off the bench, 11 points, he hit his shots. Aaron Wiggins, who's been pretty solid for a couple months now. Isaiah Joe, Cason Wallace, like those guys can hit shots. And I would trust those guys to hit shot, maybe not at this rate, maybe not 45.7% from 3, which the Thunder shot, but I would have more confidence in those guys being a little bit more consistent in their shot making than Russell Westbrook, Mason Plumlee, Terrence Mann, Amir Coffey. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying the Thunder are going to make 45% of their threes this whole series, but they have more consistent shot makers than the Clippers did. So that's going to be a challenge for the Mavericks and how they want to help. And even with that, they still executed, I think, for the most part, their defensive game plan. They walled off the paint. Shai had a pretty mediocre shooting night for him, 8 of 19 is okay. He hit 2 threes, which he hadn't hit threes in the first round. Like, I really think that they take this Shea game, and they're going to hope that they get a better whistle, which they probably will. If they don't in game 2, they certainly should in game 3. But I think they take the Shea game, like shooting wise. Like, the free throws suck, but he didn't dominate the ball with his scoring in terms of making shots. Like, he just got to the free throw line a bunch in the first half, and then the role players hit shots in the second half. So, again, it feels so stupid. The Thunder scored 117 points. They made 16 threes. Just don't have a lot of qualms with the defense. Like, I really feel like this was an offense. That's the reason for the loss.
Sure. All right. We're a little more than halfway through the pod. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. If you're here, you're watching us live. We record live after every game. If you could do Josh and I a favor, considering hitting the like button on the stream, also subscribing while you're down there, and you can do something within your subscription to actually get notified when Josh and I go live. We record everything live. Why do we record everything live? Because Josh and I have day jobs, and it's a lot easier to just record this up instead of posting something to YouTube. We also do a secondary post-game show where you can come fire off your takes, argue with me if you want. Just kind of get those feelings out. It's either called group therapy or Mavs party, depending on when the Mavericks win. Tonight's going to be a group therapy because we're a little sad that we're lost. Those of you listening on the audio stream, if you could leave us a review, very much appreciate it. Love all the reviews I'm seeing on Spotify and Apple. Very grateful for those. And if you would like to shoot me an email talking basketball, I'm pretty easy to find. Last but not least, we're going to insert some ads, and then we will be right back on the audio stream. Those of you who are waiting live, you're going to have 5 weird seconds of silence. And we're back. Before we kind of kick off the second half of the show, I want to shout out to folks who left us tips along with comments. King says, do you think Jason Kidd pulled the trigger too soon? They were down 12. I honestly don't remember how much they were down, but they were
down by a little bit more than
that. It was starting to look.
They were down 21, I think, when they pulled all the starters.
It was starting to look a little grindy. I mean, Luka missed a really awful 3. It was just the flag needed to be waved is the answer. But King, thank you so much for the tip and for the question. Really appreciate that. Wade shouts us out and he says, on a bad streak, can't listen again live tonight, but I will listen to you guys tomorrow, even though it's not going to be fun. You boys look sharp as usual. Go Mavs. Yeah, I forgot to comb my hair.
I got my ring light, baby. I bust out the upgrade for the playoffs.
That's what we're here. That's what we're here for. It's really exciting. Oh, and then one more tip. Shout out from Small Dog in a sweatshirt. Hate our lack of sets. I like that we have the option to run high pick and roll, but show me some screens and off-ball action. We stand so still. Don't disagree, man. Don't disagree. It's not like we need to run a set every time, but we also don't need to run a screen and roll every time. What do we want to go to from here?
It sounded like you were revving up in the first half of the pod about Tim Hardaway Jr. Do I want to just give you the floor?
It's not on Tim. It's not Tim's fault. He's just going into the game. And I get that Dante Exum is a pumpkin, but Exum is why you won games for a significant portion of the season, and you play that man 3 minutes? Like, what does Tim bring right now? I don't understand it. He was awful. He wasn't the reason they were bad, but it's just like 1 for 5 in 17 minutes, all 4 horrendous misses from the 3-point line. We're talking trebuchet style things where it looks like it's going to, hurt one of the Oklahoma City Thunder fans. I don't get that. That's something that's a little bit confusing to me. I'm frustrated with the bench guys that aren't named Josh Green is sort of where I'm settling right now.
How many times have you said that in your life?
I know. I mean, Josh came in and did what he was asked to do. The moment was a little too big for him on some of these wide open threes. I mean, frankly, it feels like Josh shoots the ball better when he's contested. As stupid as that sounds.
Yeah, it's probably, even though he made 3 of them, which is 3 of 8 is not, I mean, it's not a great percentage, but it's not horrible for
37.5%. You live with it.
That's good. You live with that for sure. I think the Thunder are going to be okay with him taking 8 3-pointers.
Oh yeah. I mean, they left him open.
But he has to shoot them
in your head.
So it's a catch-22 because it's not like you don't want him to shoot it, but it's like if he's the guy taking the most 3-pointers besides Luka in a game, like, probably need to see how you can diversify that a little bit more. Like, get maybe Kyrie. Like, Kyrie had 4. Kyrie needs more spot up threes. he needs significantly more spot up threes. And maybe the Thunder are just hugging him too tight, but if they're hugging him too tight, then that should open things up to backdoor cuts, screens. If a defender's playing you that tight, rub off a screen and lose him. You know what I mean? So they need to do something there. But I think the bench, Tim Hardaway Jr. playing, there's nothing. I can't get angry because it's like, I'm not saying he played poorly, but I think Kidd was just like, okay, our offense stinks. Let's just see. Like, let's see what he does in game 2. Like, if he plays 20
play
minutes.
Play with the Bertans rule then. And his first 2 threes were horrible.
I know. But if he plays 17 to 20 minutes again in game 2 and scores another 2 points, then I think people can get out the pitchforks. The real story to me was Lively being maybe the most ineffective he's been in a long time. And he's played well against the Thunder this season. So that was pretty big. He had more turnovers than made baskets, which has not happened to him a lot in his rookie season. 2 points, 4 rebounds, no blocks, 1 of 3 from the floor. It's so funny because like he's a 20-year-old rookie, and that's been the thing with him is like he doesn't look like a rookie. He looked like a rookie today.
He did today, yeah. He got embarrassed by his rookie classmate and that got in his head. Like that, Chet blocked him on a really awful hook shot attempt, and he just turned into a pumpkin.
Yeah, and with Maxey out, you can maybe afford one of Gafford or Lively not giving you a ton. Gafford missed a lot of shots, which was maybe another thing we talk about. But otherwise, he played well. But if Lively's, you can't have one of Gafford and Lively playing poorly with Maxey out. Like that's just the thing. Because with Maxey in, then you have another option. You can play small ball 5, or you can play Maxey next to Gafford if Lively can't bring it, or if Gafford can't bring it, you do reverse it. Put Lively in with Maxey, or you play Maxey small ball 5. With Lively playing poorly with Maxey out, there's just that's it, right? They don't have any options they can turn to besides playing Gafford a lot of minutes. And I don't know if that's necessarily the answer, even though I thought he did some good things. Like it's just they need both of those guys to play well. They're a tandem. They're a 2-headed monster. And the Mavericks have had, I think, their most success this season when they're both playing well. And they don't have the security blanket of Maxey if one of them isn't. So I thought that was very noticeable. He had zero. Not only did he not have much of an impact on the game, I mean, he had negative, like single game plus minus. I'm sorry, I don't even really want to reference it. His was pretty minus. I felt every bit of his negative plus minus. Like it was just a rough game for him. Not his fault. Like he's a rookie. It's going to happen, but
sure,
that's going to cost them in this series.
Yeah, the fouls seem to also bother him. He had one.
He got real frustrated.
He got because it was the kind of, and this is.
I understand why.
Yeah, there was Lively's was pretty big on the defense against the Clippers because I frankly thought they let him get away with a lot against Los Angeles, and he met somebody in the rim. At the rim in the second quarter for the kind of thing where I'm just like, they haven't called that a foul all playoffs.
No.
And it was like, oh, okay. Just a quick whistle. Like one of those, like, cause the Mavericks had probably 7-8 possessions out of like 10 or 12 where they got called for fouls in that second quarter. And that really sapped his aggressiveness. I was very surprised by it. Yeah.
They gotta, this is just a dust it off, shake it off, try to play better in the next game for him. There's not much more to say. But
can I be petty? I want to be petty.
Okay.
So I came into this game, and one of the things I talked about last night when you and I were recording a preview was the Mavericks have gotten killed on 3 prior to this game on 3 out of their 4 game ones. The only game one they didn't get killed in was Utah, where Luka didn't play, and they actually had a chance to win that game. I don't remember what happened, but there were some missed 3 opportunities at the end. It's neither here nor there. This now makes 4 out of 5 games, and frankly, every single one that Luka's played, though I'm not hanging it on him, game ones during this tenure of playoff basketball for the Mavericks under this current coaching regime where they have been down by at least 20 points. I don't know what to do about that because when you're on the road on every single game one, you're quite literally not supposed to win. Like you're always the underdog. On the flip side, I just don't like getting the shit kicked out of me. You know? So it's like, am I making too much out of this? Tell me if I'm wrong. So I'm fine if I'm being ridiculous about this.
Can I be a coward and say you're both sides are right? Can I be a coward centrist and say I understand why you're mad because you're a fan? You should be. The Mavericks just got dump trucked on national TV in a playoff game. Like, why? People should be mad. Like, you're a fan. Like, that's part of the fan experience. Like, get mad. Like, your team looked crappy on national TV in the first game of a playoff series. Like, what? You're gonna get mad. But also, sure. I understand the other side of it, where it's like, yeah, game one. If you're always playing game one on the road, you're probably not going to win a lot of them. So, and the series isn't over. Thunder got to get 3 more. You still haven't played a home game yet. So, you know, I get both sides of it. I'm going to take the cowards right there, because I think a big thing we both talk about is like we're trying. You know, I don't always follow this rule, and I admit it. I'm trying to be better about not telling people how to fan. And you know, sometimes I'm bad about it because sometimes I'll tell people not to get mad, and that's, you know, you're allowed to get mad. Like, it's an emotional game. The whole fandom is short for fanatic or whatever. Like, it's part of fandom. Like, you're gonna get a little irrational every now and then. Like, to ask a fan to just be like, oh, I'm calm, cool, and collected. Like, it's okay. There's more. This series isn't over yet. Like, there's time for that. But right after a game, you could be pissed off. So I'm just trying to be better about that.
No, I think I'll wake up tomorrow, and really by the time I make it through group therapy, I like the Mavericks defensive game plan. And when you come down to like, okay, the Mavericks need to play better on offense, I don't find myself frustrated with Coach Kidd on that. I do wish that he would make them call. Like, I specifically, since I'm such a shit, I texted Tim Cato and I said, you need to ask this question if you get called upon. Why aren't they running any Luka Kyrie actions? I want to know. There's not a good answer for it other than the fact it feels like they fucking forgot.
Yeah, because the only thing I know I've said it like a billion times, but the only thing I think of is they just don't want Luka setting screens with his knee messed up. But again, okay, but why isn't Kyrie setting screens? All right, go ahead. What did you?
You just reminded me of something. So Grant kept talking about this during the game.
Screens.
Luka was hanging. This was like, if you want to make a real criticism of Luka beyond the shooting, he was not using his screens appropriately tonight. What a wild, weird thing to say about Luka Doncic, right? But he was right. Like you watch the replay, and like there were 3 offensive fouls called because Luka got sped up. Like, that's how you can tell Luka's having a rough game, that the guy who moves at his own pace was moving too quick. Anyway, sorry, I just thought of that.
No, you're right. I mean, that's a good way to kind of encompass like how, like, it's just off. Like, it's just not right, you know? And we've watched him. We've literally watched every single game that this guy has played in the NBA. And we talk about him extensively every single time because he is the fulcrum. He's the engine. He doesn't look like himself. And I can't remember the last time I've seen him play this many games consecutively, shooting this poorly.
Yeah.
Now, I said shooting this poorly because he has had moments in these playoffs where he has done other things.
Yes.
To compensate. Tonight wasn't one. He had 5 turnovers. He made a couple good passes. His defense was
because they weren't pushing the ball. He wasn't able to do what they did in Game 6 against the Clippers, where he was getting into the teeth of the defense early in the shot clock because they were running after misses
because they were turning over the Clippers a bunch. The Thunder only had 9 turnovers for the game. So
so it's a different deal there.
But we've never seen him shoot like that. Like, so this is 7.
I thought the shots looked a little better tonight. Is that stupid? Is that wishful thinking?
What did he do?
He didn't short arm. Like, he was short against the Clippers, and that was driving me crazy.
Once again, this trend continues. He was 3 of 5 from mid-range. So his mid-range jumper has just been significant.
He was bad close, though, today. He missed some bunnies in the key.
Yeah, 0 of 4 in the paint outside the restricted area. 2 of 2 at the rim, but only 2 of 2 at the rim. Only 2 attempts at the rim. Like, remember in 2020 when he would like average like 7 or 8 shots at the rim like every game?
Earlier this year, his Kevin O'Connor shared some stat around the 40 game mark where he was like leading the league. He was ahead of Giannis, I think, in terms of like
in efficiency, but not attempts.
Yeah.
he was career low in share of shots at the rim this year.
Yeah.
But that was okay because he was hitting 38% of his threes, which was okay. That's totally fine. Like, but now he's not hitting his threes and he's still not getting to the rim more. It's like, I don't know. It's just they can maybe drum some stuff up a little bit better, but
Sure.
we need to see more Derek Jones Jr. backdoor cuts, more PJ Washington backs. Like those guys aren't doing. Like, I mean, we're watching. No one's moving. Like if it's not Luka and the big man setting the screen, everyone's standing, and it's just kind of the worst of the Mavericks half court habits that we've seen over the last 5 years.
Sure. If we want to end on a positive note, because I kind of do. If I'm the other team and the Mavericks have the ball in transition, the last cool play the Mavericks effectively did was Luka finding Kyrie for that transition three, where Luka had his eyes on Kyrie the whole time. And it's just so pretty when he shoots that thing from the right wing. Kyrie Irving, I mean. I love it. I love
that transition
that shot.
three it's automatic.
I just love that shot. Anyway. Okay. Hey, we got one more tip. Shout out to Clemens for giving us a tip. Really appreciate that, my man. All right, so I'm going to hang around here, and we're going to do our secondary post-game show. Josh, you get to go edit some things at mavsmoneyball.com and see what we come up with. Everyone else is going to hang out and hopefully come talk a little basketball here with me at the after show group therapy. Guys listening on the audio stream, be looking for that at some point on, what is tomorrow? Wednesday. Okay, guys, thanks so much for hanging out. We'll talk soon, and go Mavs. Hello, friends. Thanks for hanging out. This is Pod Mavericks Group Therapy. I am Kirk Henderson, editor-in-chief at mavsmoneyball.com. Can't tell you how much I've enjoyed these playoffs and this season, getting to spend time with some of you guys. If you're new to this show or if you're old to this show and just forget how this works, in the YouTube comments, I have pinned a post to a StreamYard.com link. I want you to click it, come in here, give me your takes, process some of those feelings. It's so much more effective than yelling at other strangers on the internet. Talking basketball with real live people is part of the it's part of the fun here. It's this, we here at Pod Mavericks support the touch grass movement, which really involves just talking to human beings. We'll hang out until people are done talking, and then we can throw this game in the trash and move on with our lives. We got two regulars waiting to talk. Coming up first is Boots on the Ground correspondent Brian Roby. Brian, I got to figure out how to get my mouse over to you to bring you up on stage because it is ignoring my calls. Hey, Brian, what's up?
Hey, man, how's it going, Kirk?
What do you think?
I'm less angry than I was immediately at the end of the game. I'm no less disappointed. And I'm going to need you to give me some space to lay out here because there is no one other than maybe Josh Green who did not cover themselves in shit tonight.
Ooh. Not even Gafford? I like Gafford.
Gafford was so weak at the rim. So weak.
On the finishes, at least?
He couldn't finish over dudes that was 6'4" and 6'5".
Those were floaters from like 8-9 feet. Those are weird.
Yeah, and he tried to dunk them like an idiot when he had the corner kick wide open. He had been making that pass all season. He was trying to jump from the free throw line damn near to finish over these tiny dudes when he literally could have just taken a dribble or pumped and just gotten a layup, kick to the corner. There were options. and instead he chose to go to the rim. And now, some of these times he got fouled because Oklahoma City's front court is small outside of Chet. So Chet included for some reason, are allowed to really just like whack bigs and get away with it.
Yeah.
But that happened maybe 2 or 3 times. He missed like 8 of those. Yeah. It was pretty bad. Like I think Jackson Frank was the one who tweeted it. His rigidity as a finisher and as a roller is one of the things that killed us tonight. Like Lively didn't have a good game at all, and I still thought he should have played more because Lively would have made better decisions out of that role. It was not good in the paint. And on top of that, we were having good defensive possessions, and we couldn't close them because Luka wasn't interested in boxing out and throwing his body into anybody.
He got a little better as the game wore on, but the first quarter and a half, I think, and he normally kind of hunts rebounds and has the verticality. He's a big guy to go snatch some of these things out of the air, and he just couldn't.
Didn't have the lift.
Yeah, and so in the second part of the game, he did start boxing a little more. But those 50, they're nearly like 50-50 balls because there were rebounds that were going out to like the free throw line extended area that the Thunder were then getting back. And those absolutely took the wind out of the Mavericks' sails in the first half.
OKC got every single 50-50 ball in the first 3 quarters, whether it was an offensive rebound off of one of their own misses or a long rebound on one of our bricks. They got every single one. And when they didn't, it's nice to have, your own personal fire starter on the other team. We had no. So there is one other person that I actually want to cover and glue here. Derrick Jones Jr. was awesome.
Yep.
Derrick Jones Jr. was fantastic. He was so good on both ends, but particularly on defense. He was single-handedly playing J-Dub into the ground the way that he did Paul George for most of the Clipper series.
Mm-hmm.
Except when he came out of the game or when we went to play small and he moved up to the 4 instead of staying at the 3 because we didn't have Maxey. And then now on top of that, PJ commits 2 dumb fouls in a row. So he's sitting for most of the first half, and that really hurts us. So in comes Tim Hardaway Jr., and
I don't understand it. I flat out don't get it. Like, what did Exum do? Did he hurt somebody? Like, yes, he missed shots, but they weren't like his shot at least like went at the basket.
I was arguing with people in a Mavs group chat on Twitter. Who were just saying, yeah, no, Tim needs to get going. Exum stinks. I'm like, brother, Exum is not playing well, and he is still many orders of magnitude better than Tim Hardaway Jr. because he's not nearly as destructive when he isn't playing well. He's still holding up defensively.
Right.
He is running the offense because we need another ball handler outside of Luka Doncic, even if we have Kyrie, because Kyrie Irving does not want to run the offense.
He doesn't want to run it. I don't know how to explain that to people that don't get this. It's not, you're not saying it out of being like critical. I mean, a little critical. You wish he'd run the offense, but we've watched enough of this. This has been the Mavericks season. He wants to operate in a different mode. So the Mavericks work around it. And they've actually won a lot of games that way.
Yeah, he's not trying to bring the ball up and initiate. We've just got to accept it for what it is. It is ridiculously frustrating when it means that you are watching Tim Hardaway Jr. bring the ball up against Cason Wallace and attempt to initiate offense. But you can live with it when it's Exum because Exum will at the very least get the ball to where it needs to go and get the hell out of the way. If the ball comes back to him and he bricks a shot, he bricks a shot. Tim is actively hunting his own shot and actively making bad decisions. The play that swung the game early was Tim's first play on offense where he caught the ball at the top of the key after the defense has already been bent. There was a man 5 feet away from him. Kyrie had just made his first shot of the game after not really touching the ball or attempting to do anything with it at all. Kyrie is butt naked open in the corner right next to Tim, not even opposite corner, same corner. He is 10 feet away from Tim Hardaway Jr. if he looked to his left. Tim catches the ball with 6 feet of space between him and the closing defender, pump fakes for some reason, and then in the middle of the pump fake, dumps the ball down to Derek Lively, where Chet is right on his back, right under the rim. The shot clock is winding down. Lively has to put up a shot. It gets spiked 15 feet the other way, and Lively loses all confidence and looks like poop the rest of the game. So we just lost 3 players that we could have used in this game in one play because Tim couldn't make a simple basketball decision. Then he comes in the fourth quarter. I wanted to say third. It was the fourth. He comes in the fourth after Derrick Jones Jr. had been doing an awesome job on J-Dub all game long. He was running that man into the ground. He wasn't giving him any space. He was not getting bumped off of his position when J-Dub got his shoulder into you on that drive, which is what he loves to do and create space that way. He couldn't do it against Derrick Jones. He couldn't do it against PJ. Tim Hardaway Jr. came to the game, and this man had a personal 8-0 run that ended the game.
Yeah.
Walked into the best looks he had all game.
He's great. I mean, he's great. Like that's I think that's the thing. Whenever and I don't fuck it. Whenever dipshit other team fans join the comments, I think they're always like really surprised that I'm not shrieking about how much I hate the other team or how much I hate fouls and the refs and this, that, and the other. It's because I am a knower of ball and I'm not a fucking moron. And the Thunder are really pretty good. And I like good basketball. And like there was a significant portion of this game that was actually really good basketball. And then the Thunder just blew the doors off.
I love most of the Thunder players. I was kicking and screaming and yelling for the Mavericks to find a way if J-Dub had fallen to 25 because we had that around that time in that draft, or for us to trade up to try and get him, because I knew the moment I saw his pre-draft tape and I saw how well he worked on ball and off ball.
I don't even know how I'd categorize him. He just does a little bit of everything. Like Scottie Pippen feels insulting because I think he's a better offensive player, but he just does so much as a big guy.
He's a jack of all trades and genuinely growing into a master of quite a few of them. He can handle the ball. He can run your offense. He can space for you. He can cut. He can finish. He can pull up. He can catch and shoot. He will defend bigger wings. He will defend fours. And defend
he had Kyrie, and like part of why Kyrie wasn't involved early is because he was just near Kyrie, and like that's a hard thing for Kyrie at 6'2" to get around.
And this is what I'm saying. This dude is so good, and we had him. He was playing like shit, not because he was having a bad game, because Derrick Jones Jr. was in his jersey all game, and all it took was 2 minutes of Tim Hardaway Jr., and he was right back on, and the game was over. And that's before you get to Luka, what are you doing? That's before you get to Kyrie, Jason Kidd, why are y'all just watching this happen and not talking to this man? You know he can't do what he's used to doing.
Yeah.
He doesn't know it because he's still trying to force it, but nobody's telling him. And so now you just gave up a game so that you can go and talk to him about it in film study when there were 18 minutes of game time left when you could have said this to him.
Yeah. Yeah. Matt Moore just told me, because I was exchanging tweets with them. I said it felt like the Thunder got all 50-50 balls, and for whatever tracking analytics he uses, he says the Thunder beat the Mavericks 8-3 on loose ball recovery. So that's something. What else you got for me? Anything else?
Look, I'm just glad that Josh Green came in and was able to do his job. I'm happy for him that he had that game, because he needed to see some shots go.
I mean, he needs to, like, the fact that he can't hit open threes but can hit contested threes is truly baffling to me. Did you hear Josh Bowe talking about the kind of whirlwind pass that Luka found Josh in the far corner where there was no one even on that? And, like, that shot was so bad.
It didn't have a chance. It didn't have a chance. The only bright spot is PJ was making his catch and shoot threes.
Yeah.
We just have to keep him out of foul trouble.
I mean, well, there's foul trouble and then there's being an idiot. Like his third foul might be the single dumbest foul I've seen from the Mavericks
it was
this
ridiculous.
playoffs.
He had just checked into the game.
Like, watch your
He
body.
Swan dived right at Shea. And I'm
I
like,
use
what are you doing?
It's the sort of shit I tell my 8-year-old son. Like, watch your body, man. Don't just throw yourself around. What are we doing?
Yeah, it was not smart. He's going to be better in the next game, I'm pretty sure. But yeah,
I mean, he was pretty good when he played. It's just they need him to play, though. Man, when
we need him on the court.
The corner, it was one of the game ceiling. I mean, game's already over. But Jalen Williams lifted him a little bit from the left corner, like kind of got him on a pump fake, and then drove past him and dunked all over him like it was 2K Street. Like that was very painful for me to watch.
Yeah, it was frustrating. If he's in the game for the entire game, then maybe he's a little bit more comfortable, and maybe he isn't so jumpy and reactive to every single pump fake. But yeah, I genuinely think, like, just closing this out because I've been up here long enough, I genuinely think this is a Lively series and not a Gafford series, regardless of the numbers that he put up in this game. His lack of flexibility as a finisher and as a roller, if he can't get to where he is just powering through people the way he was the last 2 months of the season and finishing over the top of them and getting offensive rebounds and finishing through contact on putbacks, if we can't get that back, and him seeing what the defense is doing and making good passes to the corner, if we can't get back to that and have these dudes knock down their shots, we're cooked. But more than that, if Luka just doesn't have the lift and can't get to his shots or is getting to his shots, but they're only the bad ones that the defense wants him to take, then none of this matters.
Yeah. Nope. All right.
Game 1. 7-game series, not a 1-game series.
That's right. All right, man. Thanks for hanging out. We'll talk soon, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. So if anybody wants to talk, you click that link and you come on up here. Like some of you 12-year-olds in the chat using words that you wouldn't say to your parents, for example. Coming up here next is Tyler. What's up, Tyler?
Kirk, what's up, dude? That was a disaster.
I mean, it's the 5th time in a row it's happened. Do you expect the Mavericks to win a game 1? Like, I don't. It's a matter of how they're going to lose and like what level of mad I'm going to be.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I kind of expected to lose at this point, but the way they lost was frustrating because they were minus 13 rebounding and they allowed 16 offensive rebounds to this team. And granted, some of it was long rebounds off of threes, but like there was a play I remember in the second half where like the Thunder gave up the ball twice where there was a loose ball and they just refused to grab the basketball and take it the other way. And I think it ended in a Chet dunk. It's like
that was really awful. And then up at the top corner of my screen, I see who is it? I see Daniel Gafford wander into the frame. Like he just watched Daniel Gafford run back for a dunk.
Because he made the block on Chet, and then he was like, "Oh, my job here's done." And then they didn't finish the possession, and it just resulted in 2 points. It was bad. So, I only have a couple of main things I really want to hit on here. First and foremost, like I get it, Luka's playing hurt. He should be commended for playing through it. But dude, if you're out there, he's got to be better, or else, like I don't think they can survive a series of him shooting the way he did against the Clippers. The Thunder are just so much better that I just don't think that the Mavs can even make it a series if Luka's not at least putting up some numbers offensively. Because that today, like he was actively hurting the team. It felt like for
he was. That game.
Like, no, he was. It's the first time I've noticed that in like a Luka game. It was like, dude, you're actively hurting the team at the moment.
Yeah. No, that part and it's one of these items where when you talk with people and it's like, oh, Luka shouldn't play. The way the Mavericks are built, if you take Luka off the floor, you're just going to send 2 bigger, longer defenders at Kyrie Irving every time. And then essentially say, good luck, Derek Jones. Are you going to go generate your own offense now? It's like I don't, and so it's like even when Luka was standing there, even when he's shooting, 1 for 2,000 or whatever he was from the floor tonight, Lou Dort was still about 3 feet away from him at all times. So like that's what it's what happens out there. So
he still has the gravity. He's just not breaking the game like he does most of the time, which is kind of interesting. And then I haven't heard, I don't know if you guys mentioned this on the main show. I didn't hear it, so I'll go ahead and bring it up. So when the Mavs cut it to 1 in the third quarter, it was because they finally put Gafford onto Giddey, and they finally started to get some stops, got some turnovers. Well, coming out of that timeout that Daigneault called, he pulled Giddey, and immediately the Thunder go on that run. Giddey only played 17 minutes in this game. So both Wiggins and Case and Wallace both had more minutes than Giddey. So, like, I just am going to wonder what the Mavs adjustment is to that, because I'm going to be honest, I didn't think that the Thunder would pull the we just won't play Giddey card, because he was good in the first round.
Yeah.
But, like, today he was not, and they just straight up.
No, he was still pretty good. He just shot the ball funky a couple of times. Like, he's a play connector where, particularly on a lot of those scrambles after offensive rebounds, there was some good stuff there. I get it.
True, but like I know plus minus is wonky. He was -7. The rest of the Thunder starters were all plus multiple points. So
for sure. No, I got one of my Thunder friends is messaging me right now, and he's like, if Daigneault cuts Hayward's minutes out and cuts Giddey's minutes out, then this could be the series could go badly for the Mavericks in a hurry. And I don't disagree, because it's like the size differential. Like Case and Wallace plays a lot bigger than he is. Wiggins, Isaiah Joe, it just, that shit hurts my feelings, because I wanted him on the Mavericks in like 2020. It's just, you got a lot of interesting guys you can go to, and he made some kind of odd calls tonight, I think rotationally. I mean, they played a lot of, it's the first game of the series. You want to see what you have, but it really wouldn't shock me if they did move on from Giddey during it at some point of the season, or not season.
Yeah, it's just interesting, because like you had Wiggins, who was 5 of 7 from the field. Case and Wallace, I think, was 5 of 7 from the field as well, or maybe that was Isaiah Joe.
No, it was Case and Wallace. Isaiah Joe was 2 of 3 from 3-point range, because he hit that killer one right after the timeout when it was 66-65. Yeah. That was tough.
So I just wonder what the Mavs adjustment is going to be if they do end up going away from Giddey, if he is only a 15-minute a game player, because like they tried putting the centers out there on like other Jalen Williams, and it felt like they kind of got wrecked from time to time. So I'm just not sure where they go.
See, and this is what I think a lot of Mavericks fans are not understanding about the way Dallas plays defense now. They're walling off the paint and daring you to beat them from 3. The thing that our chat in particular doesn't seem to understand is that the Thunder have multiple guys who can beat the Mavericks from 3. Like, you're going to, given, I'm sorry, I don't want to be too mean to the Mavericks role players, but it's a different kind of shooter. It just is. It just is. So, and that's what I'm looking for. Yeah. Okay. Kubler says Case and Wallace is from Richardson High School. Yes, my son went to basketball camp there last summer. He's a hell of a player. I mean, he's just supremely talented. Really. I mean, there's a lot of Thunder players that I like. It's like it's why I don't really feel like super interested getting into it with like Thunder fans over anything. It's like I like your team. You're not at that point in the like fan cycle where I hate you. Like, because they don't get shut. Yeah, because the way the big, it's like the way the bigger media markets team work, they're shoved down your throat all the time, and so the more interesting teams that aren't the Knicks, the Lakers, the Golden State Warriors, they don't get. It's the Thunder were great all year and were not much of a conversation piece ever. Which why not? They were good. It's baffling. So,
yeah, I mean, I guess my last thing, and then I'll hop off here because I've been on for a while. But like, do you think we reach a point? Maybe it is game 2 if the Thunder keep hitting. Granted, they were 46% from 3 before Dallas pulled the plug on it. Like, sure. Is there a point in this series where you think the Thunder can hit enough threes to where it forces Dallas out of what they've been so good at here?
No, because kid's a mule. Like, kid's a stubborn mule. This is it is what it is. It is what kid wants to do institutionally, which is wall off the paint. Like, it's a weird comment. There's a guy in the comments saying that bullshit defense you played over 20 games was against inferior competition. I don't necessarily debate elements of that, because some of the Mavericks, they did play some weaker teams down the stretch. It's not really an argument, but when you're shutting people down and teams are shooting below 50% in the key, that's not just competition. Like, NBA players are good at basketball. Okay. And I'm also sitting here saying, and I've said this on multiple podcasts, the Mavericks foul a lot. I don't care because they're not called. But I mean, I used to watch Dirk Nowitzki back in the 2000s. Okay. I used to think that man got fouled all the fucking time and he never would get calls, etc. Like, I just don't, it is what it is, where it's like, this is just the way the game is called now. And the Mavericks defense is geared up to literally allow those threes. And it sort of hurts me as a Mavs fan, where, do you remember how we broke the Lakers in 2011? How old were you for that?
I was, I believe, like 13, 12.
Okay.
13.
So in that series,
I remember it.
In that series, Phil Jackson talked about how giving up corner threes was good defense. Okay. So part of my brain is like, how are we giving up 11 open threes to the Thunder from the corners, which is what happened tonight? Like, how? It's not the 90s. But then again, these new rules, and the Mavericks can do some stuff. I mean, like, look at what the Mavericks are not the Wolves, don't get me wrong, but look at what the Wolves did the last night to Oklahoma City. You body people now in the NBA, and they don't care. That's what made the first quarter and a half, some of the calls that the Thunder were getting, I mean, they're fouls. I'm not sitting here saying they weren't fouls, but for 2 months, they haven't been fouls, is what I'm actually saying. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it was inconsistent compared to what they'd gotten used to, which is probably why you saw Lively lose it there for a minute, because like you said on the main show, that was the first time in 2 months it'd been called a foul.
Well, he did. He came from behind and hit him as he was going to the rim. And I'm like, I'm just not used to that being a call, but in my brain, how I watch basketball, that was foul.
We've heard marginal contact for so long now. Like, it felt like a couple of those were marginal.
Oh, goodness. Well, I don't know. I'm happy to be, it's not like I'm happy to be here, so to speak, but it's second round. I didn't know what to expect from this team all year. I've had a good time. There's some weird, Jason Kidd got his need extension. There's some like look ahead things, which I'm already thinking about, involving like Derek Jones Jr., because him and Maxey were like the underpinnings of a strong defense, and that's dangerous. I don't know. It's always fun talking basketball for real. So
I did see our guy Bibbs on Twitter pre-series was saying he thought it'd be a failure if they didn't beat the Thunder, which I just kind of disagreed with, but because I already think this year's kind of pretty much a success getting out of the first round. But
sure, that was my goal. I have it on paper,
Heck, I'm just glad they put play in.
Bogey Mania in the chat says Mavs in 10.
Just ran out of games.
Just ran out of games and play more games. The Mavericks gonna win. I like that one. That's a good one. All right, guys. So head on over to MavsMoneyball.com. I think Josh Bowe might be writing a little something, hopefully about the putridity of the, I don't know if that's a word, of the Mavericks offense. I would write words, but my brain no longer functions, so I'm going to go get this podcast up. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. Tyler, you got anything else before we head out?
Nope, I am good to go, man. Appreciate you having me.
The fucking Stars lost too. What kind of hotel is this?
The Rangers won and all the other teams lost.
See, that's the problem. The Rangers need to sacrifice themselves on the altar of Dallas sports. Sorry, guys. You won your championship last year. All right. Last thing before we get out of here, people who are in the chat being mean about where people live, I think that is extraordinarily lame. And here's why. There was a particular person, I'm not going to say who, you can probably put it together, but several years ago, and I've been running the Mavs website, Mavs Moneyball website for 4 years now, and I have been affiliated with Mavs Moneyball for a decade. And at one point in time, a particular radio host here in the Dallas area went on a tirade about me and my opinions and wondering why I had any influence in any say because I was just a guy from Virginia. It was one of the most fucked up things that has happened to me in this particularly weird, short, non-career that I've had. And so I think about that. And I think about like a lot of the weird takes that happen between coastal teams fans and interior of America teams fans, where people say weird things like poverty franchise. And it's like, who fucking cares where you live? Don't be weird about that shit. Be mean about your teams. Don't be mean about like really nasty. Like everybody's a person. Like be a person. It's not that hard. Talks is like the whole point of why I wanted to do this sort of thing, guys, is because basketball is supposed to be fun. Talking shit is absolutely fun, but don't do it from behind a keyboard. Don't be a warrior. It's lame as shit. Grow up, please, everyone. Thanks so much for hanging out. Everybody be good. We'll talk to you a little bit more on Thursday night. Have a better part of your week and go Mavs.